Firearm-related injuries are the leading cause of death among children and teens in the U.S. That's according to research in the New England Journal of Medicine. Now researchers are looking into what percentage of teens have access to a loaded gun. Elizabeth Ruiz found how some gun owners are trying to address this now by storing their firearms outside of their homes.
In order to prevent gun violence or situations of self-harm, a growing number of states are offering places where people can store their firearms, like Bristlecone Shooting Training and Retail Center in Lakewood, Colorado.
One of the things that we've taken very seriously in here since we opened is responsible firearms ownership in general, and secure storage is a big part of that.
Jacqueline Clark is an owner of Bristlecone Shooting Training and Retail Center.
We do require a background check.
She took me all over the training facility to show me where gun owners can securely store their firearms.
We set up the temporary storage arrangement here to really help and reach people that may be in a state of mental crisis or have someone in their home that are going through a rough patch mentally. But really we found that people use it for a pretty wide variety of reasons.
Maybe the grandkids are coming to visit, or somebody in the service is being deployed.
We had somebody come in the other day who had a roommate who was okay with guns and then switched to a different roommate, and they weren't really sure what their feeling was with regards to firearms, so they wanted to store them outside of the home for a while, just until they got to know them better.
Clark says options for firearms storage at gun ranges and retailers is part of the Firearm Injury Prevention Initiative. It was spearheaded by Emmy Betts, a professor at the University of Colorado School of Medicine.
I think it really grew out of many of us who are researchers, who are clinicians, who are educators, feeling like we wanted to do more. We see people being shot and injured, whether from suicide or community violence, and we want to do our part to try to prevent those injuries and deaths.
Betts says Colorado was the first state to create an online map showing gun owners where they can temporarily store their firearms. Now she says there are similar maps in Washington State, Louisiana, Wisconsin, Mississippi, New York, and Maryland.
We're really excited to be working in a space that's not about legislation and not about telling people what to do or what not to do, but really about working with communities to find solutions to save lives.
Betts says many people think to securely store their guns so a young child doesn't find it, but she says parents also need to think about their teenagers.
Adolescents have a roller coaster of emotions, and they are at risk of suicide, and they are at risk of hurting other people, and no one wants to think that their kid would do that. But they do.
Ashley Brooks Russell is a Colorado School of Public Health associate professor who wanted to find how many teens currently have access to a gun.
What we found is that 1 in 10 youth in Colorado could access a gun in under 10 minutes.
Her team's research was recently published in JAMA Pediatrics.
We found that 1 in 4 teens said that they could find an unlocked and loaded gun in under 24 hours. That might be at their home, it might be at another family member's home, or at a friend's home.
Brooks Russell says the first step in gun violence prevention is knowing what that access looks like.
I think in many communities there's a bit of a taboo about talking about guns. It can be a politically charged issue, it can feel very personal, but if we don't talk about where our teens have access to guns, I don't think we can hope to change what that looks like.
Clark says what's most important is that retailers build trusting relationships with the community so people feel comfortable storing their firearms. However, she emphasizes it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but Betts says it's a good place to start.
When we think about suicide, we know that during periods of risk, it's best if someone doesn't have access to a firearm. Just like friends don't let friends drive drunk, it's the same thing. You don't want to have access to a lethal weapon when you're in a potentially suicidal state.
Elizabeth Ruiz, Scripps News, Denver.